The poison was already in my glass. I just didn't know it yet. I was sitting at my son's Thanksgiving table, smiling, passing cranberry relish, thanking my daughter-in-law for the turkey, while 11 drops of something that could destroy my mind were already moving through my body. And the worst part? The people who gave it to me were my own family. My name is Daniel Hayes. I'm 73 years old. I spent 31 years as a structural engineer in Boston. Born here. Built here. Stayed here. I live alone in a brownstone on Rutland Square in the South End. I drive a 2021 Volvo XC90. I had no feuds. No secret enemies. No bitter business partner waiting to settle a score. By any honest measure, I was a simple man with a good life. And all I thought I was doing that Thursday was going to Thanksgiving dinner. That's it. A family dinner. A warm house. A roast turkey. A bottle of wine. That was what I believed. Welcome to Betrayal Revenge Stories. Hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because this story still doesn't feel real to me sometimes. My son called me the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. I was at my kitchen table with my coffee, watching morning foot traffic on Warren Avenue through the window, when my phone buzzed. "Dad," he said, "you coming Thursday?" His name was Ryan. He was 41. My oldest child. A financial advisor. Smooth voice. Easy smile. The kind of man who could make strangers trust him in 10 minutes. "I might," I said. "What's the situation?" He laughed. "The situation is Melissa's been cooking since Monday." Define cooking. Clam chowder to start. Roast turkey. Herb butter. The whole thing. She's doing that cranberry relish you liked last year. The one with orange zest. That detail got me. It really did. That cranberry relish. It made the whole thing feel warm and familiar and safe. "Who's coming?" I asked. "Just us. Uncle Victor's staying here, so he'll be around. And Melissa's cousin Ethan is driving up from Needham with his girlfriend Nora. Nothing big. Casual." I almost said no. Not because anything felt wrong. Just because I'm at the age where peace gets harder to leave. I like my quiet now. I like my own schedule. I like mornings that belong only to me. But I hadn't seen Ryan in almost 6 weeks. And I did like that cranberry relish. "What time?" I asked. 3:30. "Come hungry. I'll bring wine." "Perfect." We hung up. I finished my coffee. And I gave the call exactly 0 extra thought. That is important. I need you to understand that. I was not suspicious. I was not uneasy. I was happy. Thanksgiving morning felt clean and normal. I woke up at 7. Made coffee. Read the Globe on my tablet. Watched 20 minutes of the parade until it got too loud for my taste. Showered. Dressed in gray slacks, a white button-down, and my charcoal overcoat. I stopped at the wine shop on Tremont Street and bought a bottle of Malbec. Then I drove to Chestnut Hill Avenue feeling, if I'm being honest, completely content. Ryan and Melissa's house was a colonial revival. Brick front. Black shutters. A front walk lined with boxwoods Melissa treated better than most people treat children. It was the kind of house that said money without ever saying it out loud. I pulled in at 3:27. Victor's Jeep Grand Cherokee was already there. I sat for a second with the engine running. Warm light spilled through the windows. I could smell turkey even through the closed car. I remember thinking, nice. Just nice. A nice evening. Melissa opened the door before I knocked. She wore an apron. Her hair was pulled back. And she hugged me. That part surprised me. Melissa was never cold exactly. But she wasn't affectionate either. She was careful. Mannish. Polite in a way that kept a little space between people. But holidays change people a little. Or so I thought. "Daniel," she said. "Right on time. Give me your coat." Ryan came in from the living room with one hand already reaching for the wine. "Dad, you look good." "You say that every time. Because it keeps being true." I smiled and handed him the bottle. Victor was on the couch with a glass of scotch, watching the pregame. He lifted his drink at me. "Brother." I took the armchair across from him. "How long you staying with him?" I asked. He shrugged. "Couple more weeks. Maybe through Christmas." He swirled the scotch. "Divorce is a hell of a thing, Danny." "It is," I said. We sat there in the kind of silence men in a family can share without needing to fix it. The house smelled incredible. Butter. Herbs. Something sweet from the oven. When I glanced toward the dining room, the table was already set. Cloth napkins. The good china. Candles waiting to be lit. Ethan and Nora arrived around 4. Quiet people. Pleasant people. The kind who help a dinner move along without ever taking over the room. Everything felt normal. Perfectly normal. That matters. Because if you're waiting for a dark feeling to creep in early, it didn't. There wasn't one. About 20 minutes before dinner, Ryan came in from the kitchen holding a small dark bottle. Brown label. Clean little design. The kind of packaging meant to look expensive and harmless at the same time. "Hey Dad," he said. "Before I forget. Melissa got us seeing this nutritionist and she put me on these heavy metal detox drops. All natural. She says people our age carry all kinds of toxins and don't even know it." I looked at the bottle. Then at him. "I'm not taking mystery drops from a nutritionist I've never met." He laughed softly. "It's not a drug. It's a supplement. Like vitamins. I take what my doctor tells me to take." He sat on the arm of the couch. "Dad, I've been taking it for 3 weeks. Melissa too. You mentioned back in October that you'd been tired. Remember that?" I had. Just a passing comment on the phone. Nothing dramatic. Just one of those small things a father says and assumes will disappear into the air. But he remembered it. That touched me more than it should have. He handed me the bottle. The label listed plant extracts, trace minerals, distilled water. Nothing looked strange. Nothing looked dangerous. My son had remembered that I sounded tired. He had bought something because of it. That was the story in front of me. And I believed it. "How much?" I asked. "Just a few drops in water." Right then Melissa appeared in the doorway holding a glass of sparkling water. "I already poured it for you, Daniel. It's tasteless. I promise." Ryan took the bottle. He held it over the glass. And counted. 1, 2, 3. Careful. Slow. Focused. I watched all the way to 11. That detail would come back to me later like a knife. "Cheers, Dad." "Cheers." I drank it. Dinner was beautiful. Melissa's clam chowder was real Boston chowder. Thick. Creamy. Chunks of potato. Fresh clam. Oyster crackers on the side. The turkey was perfect. Rested right. Herb butter under the skin. Parker House rolls still warm. Green beans with slivered almonds. Cranberry relish with orange zest. The exact one I remembered. Ethan opened a Pinot Noir he'd brought. Nora complimented the table setting. Victor had another scotch. Maybe a third. The candles were lit. Ryan was relaxed. Melissa was warm. And I was happy. That is what makes what came next so hard to explain. I wasn't sitting in a nightmare. I was sitting in a good Thanksgiving dinner. Then, halfway through the meal, between reaching for my second roll and passing the relish, my mouth went dry. Not normal dry. Sudden dry. Like someone had shut off something inside me. I reached for my water glass. My hand obeyed. But not cleanly. It felt delayed. Like my arm and my mind were having a small argument. Then I tasted metal at the back of my tongue. I set my fork down. Quietly. Took a breath. The room didn't spin. Not exactly. But something inside my balance shifted. A fraction. Then another. I felt warm. Then cold. Then wrong. "You okay, Dad?" Ryan asked. He sounded concerned. He sounded exactly like a loving son noticing something small. "Fine," I said. "Just a little warm." I forced a smile. "Melissa, this turkey is excellent." She smiled back. "Thank you, Daniel." I kept eating. Kept talking. But the metallic taste stayed. And the strange distance between my thoughts and my body kept growing. I told myself it was a bug. A cold. A bad reaction to something rich. I am 73. Sometimes the body sends messages in ugly little ways. "Excuse me," I said. "Going to get some water?" "I can get it," Melissa said, half standing. No. Sit. Enjoy your dinner. I know where the kitchen is." The kitchen felt cooler than the dining room. Quieter too. I filled a glass and drank it slowly at the counter. Waiting. Hoping this strange feeling would pass. It didn't. I set the glass down. My hand brushed my napkin. It slipped off the counter and drifted to the floor near the trash can, sliding into the narrow gap between the cabinet and the bin. I bent to pick it up. And that was when I saw the blister pack. It was wedged back in the shadow. Torn. Partly crushed. Easy to miss unless you were on the floor looking straight at it. My first thought was simple. Someone here is sick. That was it. Concern. Nothing else. Maybe Ryan. Maybe Victor. Maybe Melissa. Maybe somebody had a prescription they hadn't mentioned. I picked it up. Turned it over. Scopolamine. I didn't know the word. Not really. It didn't scare me. Not yet. I took out my phone because I wanted to know what kind of medication it was. I stood there by the sink with the tap running softly and typed the name into the search bar. The results came up. I read the first line. Then read it again. Then once more. Scopolamine. Used with caution in elderly patients. Possible effects include severe confusion, short-term memory loss, disorientation, temporary amnesia, symptoms that may resemble early dementia. The glass was still in my hand. From the dining room I could hear Victor laughing at something. Just ordinary laughter. Warm house. Family dinner. Candles. Turkey. And in my hand was the name of a drug that could make an old man look like he was losing his mind. I stood still. Very still. I am an engineer. When a number doesn't fit, my mind begins arranging the data whether I want it to or not. 11 drops. Counted carefully. Melissa already holding the glass. You mentioned being tired in October, remember? No, I thought. No, that cannot be what this is. But the room tilted again. Just a little. And I knew with a horrible cold certainty that this wasn't wine. This wasn't a cold. This wasn't holiday exhaustion. Whatever was happening had started before dinner. At the sink, with that blister pack in my hand, my mind reached toward a possibility so ugly that every decent part of me fought it. I folded the blister pack, slipped it into my jacket pocket, turned off the tap, picked up my water glass, and walked back into the dining room. I sat down, smiled, reached for the cranberry relish, and said nothing, because I did not know for sure. Not yet. But something had changed in that kitchen, and I could feel it. By the time I left, Ryan pressed 2 brand new sealed bottles of the detox drops into my hands. Take them every day, Dad. You'll feel so much better. I looked at his face, open, warm, smiling, and I searched it the way I used to search blueprints for a flaw I prayed wasn't there. I will, I said. Thank you. I walked to the Volvo, sat in the dark with the bottles on the passenger seat. Maybe it's nothing, I told myself. Maybe there is a normal explanation. Maybe I am tired and scared and reading too much into a medicine I found by accident. I drove home to the South End, set the bottles on my kitchen table, took the blister pack from my pocket, and stared at it for a very long time. Then I picked up my phone. Not because I was sure. Because I needed to be sure. There is a moment in a man's life when the floor shifts. Nothing crashes yet. Nothing falls. But you know the structure is no longer sound. Mine came late on a Friday night in November, alone at my kitchen table under one overhead light. The 2 sealed bottles sat in front of me. I had not opened them. The blister pack lay beside them. My coffee had gone cold hours earlier. I spent that night reading everything I could find. Medical articles, drug databases, government health pages. A paper so technical I had to open new tabs just to understand the words. But the conclusion stayed the same. Scopolamine was not a wellness supplement. It was a controlled medication used in limited situations. Motion sickness, pre-surgery sedation, things like that. What it was not was an all-natural detox drop for a 73-year-old man. Still, I wanted an innocent answer. I wanted one badly. Maybe the supplement was contaminated. Maybe the bottle was mislabeled. Maybe the blister pack belonged to someone with a real prescription and this was a coincidence so ugly it only looked evil. I wanted that. Because I am a father. And fathers will drag hope farther than reason wants to carry it. But one fact would not leave me alone. 11 drops. Measured. Careful. Not random. Not careless. Intentional. So I called my daughter. Her name was Claire. She was 29 and lived in Philadelphia. A lawyer. Sharp enough to cut through steel. Ryan and Claire had not spoken in 5 years after a vicious fight over my mother's jewelry. At the time, I told myself it was just siblings being cruel to each other in the way siblings sometimes are. Later I learned better. Claire had always been the one person in this family who could see Ryan clearly. And I think he knew that. She picked up on the second ring. Dad. Instantly awake. Claire was never groggy. It's almost midnight. What's wrong? I need you to listen all the way through, I said. Don't interrupt until I'm done. Pause. Then, okay. I told her everything. The Tuesday phone call. The invitation. The drops. Ryan counting 11 into a glass Melissa had already poured. The dry mouth. The metallic taste. The strange feeling at the table. The napkin falling. The gap by the trash can. The blister pack. The search result at the sink. The 2 sealed bottles Ryan had handed me at the door. I talked for 11 straight minutes. Claire later told me she timed it. When I stopped, the line went completely silent. I checked the screen to make sure the call hadn't dropped. Claire? I'm here. Her voice had changed. Still calm. But flatter. Sharper. I had heard that tone once before when she was 16 and uncovered proof that her school principal was changing records for star athletes. She built that case so neatly the man resigned before the board meeting ended. That voice was back now. Don't touch the bottles, she said. I haven't. Are they sealed? Yes. The blister pack? Right here. Good. I heard movement on her end. Cabinet door. Maybe a chair scraping. Maybe her laptop opening. I need you to overnight all of it to me tomorrow morning. The bottles and the blister pack. It's the holiday weekend. FedEx will be open. Use FedEx. Pay cash. Something in me tightened. Pay cash. Yes. And don't use your own return address. That landed hard. Because that was not a daughter being extra careful. That was a lawyer protecting evidence. What are you thinking? I asked. I'm thinking I need to know exactly what's in those bottles before either of us says another word. Claire. Can you do it? Yes. Good. I'll call you at 7. She called at 6:52. I drove to Boylston Street at 8:15. Boston in late November has a lonely kind of beauty to it. Gray sky. Bare trees. Cold that doesn't ask permission before it enters your bones. The public garden looked stripped down and waiting for spring. I had the blister pack sealed in a plastic bag. The bottles wrapped separately and padded. For the return address, I used my neighbor Frank Leone, a retired postal worker who once owed me a favor over a contractor dispute. Frank didn't ask questions. Good man. I paid cash. Watched the package disappear behind the counter. Then I stepped outside and stood on Boylston Street with my hands in my coat pockets. What am I doing? I thought. What is this? This is my son. I gave myself 1 minute. 1 full minute to hope I was just an old man who had frightened himself with too much internet reading and too little sleep. Then I got in the car. And drove home. 4 days later, on Tuesday morning, my phone rang at 10:12. I was in my living room pretending to read a book. Pretending because I had gone over the same paragraph again and again and remembered none of it. I picked up. The lab results are back, Claire said. No hello. No soft landing. I sat straighter. I rushed it through an independent toxicology lab. Dad, I need you to stay calm. I was already not calm. Tell me. Both sealed bottles contain concentrated scopolamine. Levels well above any safe amount. The toxicologist flagged it immediately. My throat tightened. How bad? He used the phrase consistent with intentional poisoning. The room went quiet around me. Outside, a bus groaned past. A dog barked somewhere down the square. Ordinary sounds. Ordinary morning. Intentional poisoning. I heard myself ask the question like someone else was speaking through me. How concentrated? Enough that if you took it every day the way Ryan told you to, the buildup would cause severe confusion, memory gaps, disorientation, and behavior that could easily be documented as cognitive decline. Short sentences. That was all my brain could handle. They wanted me to look like I had dementia. Yes. Pause. Then she kept going. And I checked something else. Someone pulled certified asset valuations and title records on your brownstone and your investment portfolio in mid-October. I gripped the phone harder. Who? A law firm in Brooklyn. Attorney named Leonard Pike. The name meant nothing to me. It meant something to Claire. I called a colleague in probate. Pike has a reputation. Dark one. He helps families build predatory guardianship cases against wealthy older relatives. They create a behavior record. They line up paperwork. Then the second the target slips medically or appears confused, they file. If the judge grants it, control of the person's estate transfers to the guardian. My house. My accounts. My properties. My retirement. 31 years of work. Careful work. Disciplined investing. Everything I built one piece at a time. I said the number out loud because saying it made it real. My estate is worth over $4 million. Yes. My son had looked at me and seen $4 million. I sat in that chair and felt something crack deep inside my chest. Not hot rage. Not wild grief. Something colder. Heavier. The feeling of a load-bearing wall starting to fail. Victor signed it too, didn't he? I asked. Claire did not answer right away. When she did, her voice was even. Yes. He's listed as a supporting signatory. My brother. Recently divorced. Recently broke. Moved into Ryan's house in September. Drinking scotch on the couch while I smiled across at him on Thanksgiving. The timeline rearranged itself in my head. He hadn't landed there by chance. They bought him, I thought. No. Worse. He sold himself. That's my read too, Claire said quietly. His signature isn't confusion. It's participation. I closed my eyes. Victor's scotch. His easy silence. His sudden need for a place to stay. Ryan didn't do this alone. My brother helped him. The two men I had trusted longest. "Are you okay?" Claire asked. Was I okay? I was sitting in the house I had owned for 26 years, looking at bare maple trees outside my window, while my daughter calmly explained that my son, my daughter-in-law, and my brother had built a legal and medical trap to chemically ruin my mind and take my life's work. "I will be," I said. "What do we do? We do this right." Her tone changed again. Clean. Precise. No confrontation. No calls to Ryan. No change in routine. Nothing that tells them you know. Understood. First, I'm getting you an independent cognitive evaluation. Court admissible. A neurologist in Framingham. Dr. Mason Reed. He's testified in elder abuse cases before. When? Thursday. Thursday? I'm driving up Wednesday night. Of course she was. She had probably arranged the appointment before calling me. That was Claire. She was never just delivering news. She was already building the counterattack. "Dad," she said more softly, "stay steady. Can you do that?" "Yes. I'll see you tomorrow." She arrived Wednesday evening at 7:43. I watched from the front window as her silver Audi slid into a parallel spot in one clean move. She stepped out in a dark coat, leather document bag over one shoulder, hair pulled back, face set. 29 years old. Walking like she had somewhere important to go and no fear about getting there. I opened the door before she reached the steps. We looked at each other for 1 second. Then she stepped in and hugged me hard. Not polite. Not careful. Art. It carried 5 missing years inside it. "You look good," she said. "I look 73. She gave a short laugh. First real laugh I had heard in days. "Let me in before I freeze." We worked at my kitchen table until after midnight. Claire laid everything out piece by piece. Toxicology report. Registry polls. Leonard Pike's history. Drafted guardianship forms. Notes from the probate attorney she had called. Every paper placed with care. Then she pulled one more sheet from her bag. "I found 3 prior petitions Pike handled," she said. 2 were flagged for irregularities by the state. "He has a pattern." She tapped the page. "He targets wealthy older people through family members. Coaches them. Builds a behavior trail. Files when the record is thick enough." She looked at me. "Ryan didn't dream this up on his own. He was taught." I stared at the papers. This same table used to hold Claire's homework. Science fair boards. Spelling lists. College forms. Now it held proof that my son hired a professional to destroy me. Thursday morning we drove to Framingham in my Volvo. Coffee in the cup holders. Radio low. Father and daughter on an ordinary December drive. That was how it needed to look. Dr. Mason Reed's office sat off Route 9. Plain building. Quiet parking lot. No drama. I was inside for 2 hours and 40 minutes. Memory test. Language test. Reasoning. Orientation. Problem solving. Questions. Patterns. Recalls. By the time it ended I felt wrung out. When I walked back into the waiting room, Claire sat exactly where I had left her. Straight-backed. Still. When she is very still, it means her mind is moving fast. Dr. Reed stepped out behind me. He looked at Claire and said, "Your father has the cognitive profile of a man at least 15 years younger. There is no medical basis for claims of impairment." I watched 3 things move across her face. Relief. Then anger. Then resolve. She stood. Shook his hand. Then looked at me. "Good," she said quietly. "Now we build." And build she did. For 12 days my kitchen became a war room. Folders spread across one side of the table. Printouts marked in red ink. Late-night calls behind closed doors. Morning legal drafts. Emails. Certified copies. Affidavits. Timelines. She filed a preemptive petition in Suffolk County Probate Court confirming my competency, with Dr. Reed's evaluation attached and certified. If Ryan filed his guardianship papers now, he would slam straight into a wall he didn't know existed. She submitted the toxicology report, the blister pack, and both sealed bottles to the Massachusetts State Police Elder Protective Unit. A detective was assigned. Name, Detective Marcus Nolan. Mid-50s. Gray mustache. Patient eyes. A man who sounded like he never rushed anything because rushed things break. Claire also sent the entire paper trail to the district attorney's office. Pike's role. The guardianship draft. The asset searches. The timeline. The deliberate setup. Then one night, while stacking folders at 1 in the morning, she said almost casually, "I also filed a compliance complaint with Ryan's firm." I looked up. "You what?" "Holbrook and Cole." his financial advisory firm. I included the draft petition naming him proposed conservator of your estate. That's a gigantic conflict of interest. When did you do that? Same day I got the lab results. Same day. Before we had even sat at this table together. She had already started closing doors around him. Ryan was placed on administrative leave on December 12th. He had no idea. He still called me every few days. Taking the drops, Dad? Every day, I told him. My voice calm. My timing normal. Lie for lie. Let him believe it. Because Ryan had forgotten something. He had forgotten who raised me. And he had made a far worse mistake than that. He had forgotten who I raised. Every trap has two sides. One for the person who builds it. One for the person who finds the door. By the morning of December 16th, Claire's trap was ready. I woke at 5:45. Made coffee. Stood at the kitchen window and looked at the gray Boston sky. Today was the day. Claire was already awake. At the table in her socks, hair loose, laptop open, hands around a mug. She looked up. You ready? I poured my coffee. Sat across from her. More than ready. The plan was simple. Simple plans work. At 9 that morning I called Ryan. I made my voice slightly uncertain. Not weak. Just older. A little confused. Ryan, I said, my attorney says I need to go over some estate paperwork in person before the end of the year. Can we sit down with the family this afternoon? He didn't even let me finish. Of course, Dad. Absolutely. Of course. Estate paperwork. In person. His father sounding uncertain and cooperative. As far as he knew, Christmas had arrived early. Claire left the house at 11 in her Audi. 2 stops, she said. She did not explain. I did not ask. I dressed carefully. Gray wool slacks. White button-down. Charcoal overcoat. At the bathroom mirror, I looked at myself for a long moment. Then I straightened my collar. And walked out. I pulled into Ryan's driveway at 1:55. Melissa answered before I knocked. Big warm smile. Door open wide. Daniel, come in. Can I get you anything? Water? Water would be fine. Thank you. No flicker in her face. Not even at that word. Water. Ryan and Victor were in the living room. Both stood when I entered. Attentive. Controlled. Too ready. I understood it now for what it had always been. Management. Keep the old man calm. Keep him comfortable. Keep him right where he needs to be. Dad. Ryan hugged me. Firm. Warm. Convincing. A perfect performance. Glad you came. In a minute, I said when he motioned for me to sit. I looked around the room. Same careful furniture. Same polished surfaces. Same house where I had sat at Thanksgiving pretending not to feel my own mind slipping. Not today. I checked my watch. 1:58. 2 minutes. Ryan sat down with easy confidence. What did your attorney flag? I looked at him. At this point? Everything. His smile held for 1 second too long. Everything? The doorbell rang. And then Claire walked in. I have seen towers rise from steel frames. I have watched my children be born. I have stood high over Boston Harbor at sunrise with wind cutting through my coat. Still, I can say this honestly. Watching my son's face when he saw his sister step into that room is one of the clearest images of my life. The smile didn't vanish all at once. It went in stages. First the eyes, then the mouth, then the jaw. Melissa made a small sound behind him. Not a word, just a sound. Victor stood halfway, then sat again. Claire walked in like the floor already belonged to her. Dark coat, leather document bag. No rush, no drama. Just complete control. She came to my side and looked at Ryan. Ryan. That was all she said. His name. Like the end of something. What is this? He asked. Dad. She's my attorney, I said. I held his eyes. And she's my daughter. She's always been both. Claire set her bag on the coffee table and opened it. No shaking hands. No anger in the motion. That was the frightening part. She was calm. When Claire gets calm, bad things happen to dishonest people. She placed 3 documents on the table, side by side. The first document, she said, is a certified toxicology report from an independent laboratory. It confirms that the sealed supplement bottles given to my father on November 22 contain concentrated scopolamine at levels consistent with intentional poisoning. Melissa sat down hard on the arm of the couch. Her face went pale. Claire continued. The second document is a guardianship and conservatorship petition drafted by Leonard Pike of Brooklyn, signed by Ryan Hayes and Victor Hayes, supported by financial and filing records showing preparation began in mid-October. Victor stared at the carpet. Wouldn't look up. Claire laid the third paper down. The third document is a court-certified independent cognitive evaluation conducted by Dr. Mason Reed on December 5th, establishing my father's full legal competency. Then she looked up. Not rushed. Not loud. Just clear. So let me make this simple. You poisoned a competent man. You planned to create visible symptoms of decline. You prepared a legal petition to seize control of his person and estate. This was not confusion. It was strategy. Ryan stood up. Claire, everybody needs to calm down. Sit down, Ryan, I said. My voice surprised even me. He sat. He actually sat. I watched something drain out of him in that moment. The easy control. The smoothness. All the shine. I want a lawyer, he said. Claire nodded once. That is the first smart thing you've said. She looked at me. Just a tiny nod. I took out my phone and called Detective Nolan. He answered on the first ring. We're ready, I said. They arrived in 2 unmarked vehicles. No sirens. No shouting. No theater. Just 4 detectives and the quiet force of people who already know enough. Detective Nolan entered with the same calm voice I had heard on the phone. He showed credentials. Introduced the others. Then he began reading the charges. Melissa started crying first. Not pretty crying. Not controlled crying. Real crying. The kind that happens when the lie you were living inside suddenly has no walls left. Victor kept his eyes on the floor. Hands flat on his knees. Still as stone. Ryan said nothing. Nothing at all. And that silence hurt almost as much as anything else. Because it told me this moment had been considered. Maybe not expected. But considered. He had thought about what to do if he got caught. He had built that into the plan. The handcuffs came out. That was when Ryan looked at me. Not at Claire. Not at the detective. At me. Dad. His voice broke on that one word. I don't know why I asked what I asked next. Maybe because I needed to hear him say it. Maybe because I needed to know exactly where the structure failed. Why? I said. That was it. One word. What? The room went still. Ryan started crying. Ugly crying. Broken crying. The kind that tears through a man when every wall he built gives way at once. I didn't mean, he wiped his face. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I said nothing. He kept talking. The business. I was trying to start something. It went bad. Really bad. I owe money. Serious money. I didn't know what else to do. His eyes moved toward Victor. Uncle Victor came to me in September. He said there was a way. He laid it out. Victor's shoulders curled inward. Ryan kept going. I said no at first. I did. I said no. But you did it anyway, I said. He swallowed. Melissa said, she said. He looked at his wife. Her hands covered her mouth. Tears streaming down. She said it wasn't like we were hurting you. She said you were 73 and you'd end up in a home anyway or... He couldn't finish. Or dead anyway. He didn't say it. He didn't need to. The sentence was in the room. I looked at Melissa. She would not meet my eyes. That was the math they had done on my life. Old enough. Close enough. Valuable enough. Look at me, Ryan, I said. He did. You sat across from me at Thanksgiving dinner. You counted 11 drops into my glass. You watched me get sick. Then you handed me 2 more bottles at the door and told me to take them every day. I let the silence sit on him. That is not panic. That is not one mistake. That is a plan. Say what it is. He sobbed too hard to answer. I turned to Detective Nolan. I'm done. Ryan Hayes, Melissa Hayes, and Victor Hayes were arrested that afternoon. Charges included felony elder abuse, criminal conspiracy, and assault by chemical poisoning. Leonard Pike was referred for disciplinary action and criminal review for his role in planning the guardianship scheme. Holbrook and Cole terminated Ryan the same day. When the house finally emptied, it was just Claire and me. The candles on the mantel were still burning. That detail got me. Those small flames. So normal. So domestic. Like the room still believed it was a house and not a crime scene. I walked to the front window and looked out at Chestnut Hill Avenue. Bare trees. Gray sky. A quiet street turning blue as evening came down. 24 days earlier I had parked right there feeling happy about cranberry relish. Claire came and stood beside me. Your estate is protected, she said quietly. The irrevocable trust is filed. I'm the managing trustee, but it's all yours. Every choice. Every dollar. I nodded. Then she added, this was never about money for me. I know. And I did know. I had always known. That was the difference between my children. One looked at me and saw a father. The other looked at me and saw an estate. Claire leaned her head against my shoulder for one brief second, then straightened. Want to get out of here? Yes. We walked out together. I shut the front door behind us without looking back. The December air hit my face. Cold. Clean. Honest. Best thing I had felt in weeks. At the top of the steps I paused. There's a place on Newberry Street, I said. Makes a lobster roll good enough to ruin Philadelphia for you. Claire laughed. A full, open, real laugh. My daughter's laugh. A sound I had not heard enough of for too many years. Lead the way, old man. I smiled. Careful. Or what? Or I leave you here and eat your fries. She laughed again, and this time I did too. That mattered more than I can explain. Because when something terrible ends, the first laugh after it feels strange. Fragile. Like a window opening in a room that's been shut too long. That lobster roll tasted like air after drowning. That's the best way I can say it. We sat near the front window. Traffic moved outside. People in coats hurried past under winter light. And for the first time since Thanksgiving, I could feel my body unclenching. Claire watched me over the table. You okay? Not yet, I said. Fair. I looked at her. I should have listened to you years ago. She rested her elbows lightly on the table. This is not the part where you punish yourself. I let him push you out. You didn't understand what he was then. I should have. She held my gaze for a long moment, then said very quietly, maybe, but you understand now. That hurt. Because it was true. And because truth, once it arrives, does not care how late it is. The case went to trial the following spring. By then the evidence was thick. Lab reports. Witness records. The drafted petition. Financial searches. Expert testimony. My cognitive evaluation. Phone records. Timing. Planning. Motive. The state built it brick by brick. Just like Claire had. I sat in that courtroom in gray wool slacks and a white button-down and listened to lawyers describe my life like a diagram. How the poison would work. How the symptoms would appear. How family members would document concern. How a petition would follow. How a man could lose control of his own name, house, money, and future while still being fully himself inside. That part stayed with me. The horror of it. The idea that I could have remained awake enough to know what was happening and helpless enough not to stop it. Ryan testified only once. Short. Careful. His lawyer tried to soften him. Tried to turn desperation into explanation. Debt into fear. Fear into bad judgment. But facts do not bend just because a person cries while hearing them. Melissa's lawyer leaned hard on influence. She followed her husband. She didn't fully understand. She was under pressure. Maybe some of that was true. I don't know. But I know she held that glass before dinner. I know she sat across from me while I went dry-mouthed and unsteady. I know she said I would end up in a home or dead anyway. And there are some sentences you do not return from. Victor looked older at trial. Smaller too.